Hey guys, Taylor with Traveling Taylor, and today I'm coming to you from Freiburg, Switzerland. It's a beautiful country, it's a cute little medieval town, and I am very much enjoying my time here. I am house sitting, so you might see the cat making an appearance every once in a while. But today I want to talk to you a little bit about travelers' mindset and the importance of keeping a positive mindset while you're traveling. So I was recently on a podcast called Locally Sourced Joey, and I'll put the link down in the show notes. But on the show, he asked me about travel mishaps. And I realized throughout, our 30-minute conversation that I'd had a handful in just the last 8 weeks. And I haven't really experienced a whole lot, surprisingly, as much as I've traveled. I haven't had a lot of mishaps or delays or anything that really changed up my plans. I knew it would happen eventually, law of averages, and it finally did, and they all kind of came at one time. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what happened to me and how I dealt with it, and then just how you can change around a negative mindset into a positive mindset to kind of keep those situations a little bit more pleasant than they might be otherwise. The first one that happened to me was actually on a house sit. It wasn't necessarily travel related. It was a house sit related, which I just finished a 3-part series on house sitting. So if you're interested in traveling in this way, I recommend you go and watch those videos. I was in Ho Chi Minh City, Vietnam, and it was my very first day on my own. The homeowners had just left that morning. Well, it was the evening and I took the dogs out for a walk, 30-minute walk, come back, I put the key in the lock and the door won't open. So somehow I've locked myself out of the house. Well, what I quickly realized was there was a latch on the bottom of the door that went into the ground, into the floor. And that latch had fallen when I shut the door and I left. So it's 7 o'clock at night, starting to get dark. Again, it's my very first night on my own. The dogs are getting kind of antsy and they're getting a little stressed because we're just standing in front of the door and that's not usual. And honestly, I didn't know what to do. I just stood there for a good 30 seconds being like, okay. So I quickly started thinking about the resources that the homeowners had given me. So it's the benefit of house sitting. They typically will give you emergency contact numbers. And in this case, they had emailed it to me, which was so nice because a lot of times they just print it out. So it would have been inside. But luckily at this moment in time, it was on my phone. I looked up the landlord. I contacted him. He spoke a little bit of English. And he didn't really understand what was going on, but he was like, I'll be there in 20 minutes. And I was like, okay, great. At least someone's on their way to help me. But that's 20 minutes still, and I'm still just standing outside, and the dogs, again, are getting really stressed. So as I'm sitting there trying to decide what to do exactly, their neighbors come home from dinner. They were American, so they spoke English, which was amazing. And they just stopped and said, do you need help? And I was like, yes, I do. So they let us come inside and wait with them until the landlord got there. And long story short, after about an hour of trying to get the door open, they finally decided to break the glass on the door and reach down and unlock the latch from the bottom. So that was situation number 1. Situation number 2 happened to me a few weeks later. I was actually traveling from Budapest, Hungary to Lyon, France, where I had another house sit there. Well, I booked the house sit really last minute within I only had a 2-day notice, and flights were really expensive at this time. And so I was looking at alternative transportation methods, and there wasn't really a train option from Hungary. There really wasn't a train until I got to Switzerland. So I really needed to find something else. In this case, it was a bus. So it was the least expensive option. It was 21 hours on a bus, which I was not looking forward to. I've mentioned in previous videos that I get really bad motion sickness, but I was like, you know what? I have my Dramamine and I'll get to see beautiful countryside. I'll get to see Austria and Switzerland on a bus. It'll be okay. They typically have Wi-Fi on buses, so I can maybe watch a movie or something to take my mind off of it. I get on the bus and I get halfway through. We get to St. Gallen, Switzerland, and I get off the bus to transfer to a new one. So it was a planned transfer, and there was only supposed to be about 30 minutes in between buses. And keep in mind, it's 4:30 in the morning, so it's pitch black. I'm in Switzerland and I'm sitting at a bus stop. Not a bus station, literally a bus stop. And I'm just waiting, and I look up my next bus and it's 90 minutes delayed. So it's supposed to be a 30-minute wait, has now turned into a 90-minute wait, and there's not really anything open. I mean, it's 5 o'clock in the morning and I'm at a bus stop. So I sit there, and luckily there were a couple other people who were around as well. And we all just kind of sat there and felt safer in numbers, so it was fine. Well, 7 a.m. rolls around, the bus is supposed to get there, and 4 buses pull up. None of them are ours. And we start to realize we're all trying to get on the same bus. So we're asking the bus drivers, we're looking at the signs, and they're not even going in our direction. And half of them aren't even from the same company that I booked through. So we kind of sit back down and say, okay, well, I guess we're waiting. And the bus app that I had wasn't giving us like updates for this particular bus, of course. So we don't know where it is. We don't know if it's coming, and we wait and we wait. 9 a.m. rolls around, and we finally contact the bus company and say, what is going on? Where is this bus? And they say, oh, it's come and gone. Okay, there's 5 of us waiting for this bus. I don't think that 5 of us missed the fact that the bus showed up. We've all been here since 5 a.m. None of us have gone anywhere. No one missed it. The bus did not come. If it did come, the bus drivers gave us the wrong information. So now I've wasted a good amount of time, and I had to get to Lyon because my homeowner had already left. The cat had to get fed. Like, I had a strong motivation to get there. Luckily, I was near a train station in St. Gallen, so we went to the train station. We talked to the info people who help you book tickets, and she was able to get us the cheapest train to Lyon. Took 3 trains and a subway and an extra 5 hours, so my journey ended up being 26 hours instead of 21 hours, but I did eventually get to France. Now, I want to talk about mindset through both of these situations. So it would have been really, really easy for me to get upset, to get frustrated, to kind of just like give up and be like, well, I don't know what to do. Luckily, in both instances, I was taking care of animals. And so when you have to take care of something else, your motivation does become a little bit stronger. But through both situations, I stayed very calm. And I thought about what could I do to fix the situation, right? So like, these were things that were happening to me, not necessarily within my control, except maybe for the latch, but I didn't really expect that to happen. They were happening to me, and yet I was responsible and in charge of my reaction to it, right? Like, you hear this all the time. You can't control what other people do, but you can control what you do and your emotions. And in all the situations, I reached out and I tried to get as much help as I could, whether that was through the neighbors, through the landlord, through the train station, through the bus app. I mean, this is not an English-speaking company, but I was able to contact them through Facebook Messenger and get to talk to someone who spoke English. So it was just a matter of thinking about what is the outcome that I need and how can I most effectively get there. So I actually recently read an article, which I will also link in the show notes below, but it's called The ABCs of Chill. And in it talks a lot about this, about responding to situations that aren't positive, that can be really frustrating. And in a situation where, like me, I'm stuck in Switzerland at 5 o'clock in the morning and no one around me is speaking English, what am I gonna do? Like, what are my choices here? Like, those thoughts enter your head if you're just like, I don't even know if this is okay. So in this article, she goes over the ABCs of chill, right? So A is the triggering event or situation. So the example she gives is a traffic jam. Everyone's been in a traffic jam. Everyone knows what that's like and the frustration that comes along with that, right? So A, the triggering event. Or in my case, getting locked out or getting stuck in St. Gallen with my bus not coming, right? Those are the triggering events. B is your belief. So for a traffic jam, you might be on your way to work and your belief is, I'm going to get fired. Or for my house sitting one, my belief could have been, I'm never going to get inside and my homeowners are going to think that I'm incompetent, right? Like that was a very real fear that I was kind of feeling at the moment. And then C stands for your emotional reaction to the event because of your belief. So if you are in a traffic jam and you think you're going to get fired, your reaction might be to honk the horn or bang on the steering wheel, right? Like, that's not going to help get you there faster, but that somehow is your reaction to it. for getting locked outside of the house, my reaction could have been to just like sit there and cry in front of the door, or to get angry at the dogs and yell at the dogs because they were being really rambunctious and they were getting stressed, which was stressing me out, and that was only raising the level of the situation, right? So that could have been a very real reaction that I had taken in that situation. So what you want to do is, after A, you want to pose an intervention on yourself. So if you're starting to have really negative beliefs, and maybe it may not even be real beliefs, like if you're 5 minutes late to work, are you actually going to get fired? Maybe you do have a job that's that strict, but most likely you're going to get a warning, or you're going to get a look from your boss, or maybe nothing will happen at all, right? Like that is a possibility. But the intervention is to just change your mindset and to make it more positive. So in the case of my house sitting lockout, my intervention in that moment was, instead of believing that I was never going to get inside and that my homeowners were going to think I was incompetent, my belief was, I can solve this problem. It was very simple. I really did just kept telling myself, being like, you can figure this out. You can solve this problem. Same thing when I was stuck in Switzerland. My reaction could have been, I'm just going to be stuck here and the homeowner's going to be mad at me and the cat isn't going to get fed and it's going to go hungry. That could have been my belief. Instead, my belief in that moment was, I have options. Let me figure out what they are, right? So you kind of see where you can change your mindset. And once you change your belief, then it's really easy to change your emotional response to that, because once I believed that I had options, then my response was to go find those options. So I looked at the bus schedule, found that there was no other bus coming that day. Well, there was a bus, but it was already full. So like that was not an option. So then the next option is, well, let me look at a train, right? So let me go look at the train schedule and figure out what my options are there. And that is what I ended up being able to go with. But I was going through other scenarios in my head. Like, okay, it's a cat. It could probably stay at least one night by itself. If I have to, I'll contact the homeowner. I'll stay in St. Gallen for one night, and then I'll get on a bus or a train tomorrow, and I will get to Lyon as fast as I can. That was another solution that I didn't have to go to. That was like solution D. I was able to go with solution C, but it was something that I was thinking about all the different possibilities. And I mean, yeah, was it great in the moment? Was it great to feel like I wasted 5 hours of my morning? I mean, I hadn't slept, I was tired, I hadn't had coffee, I hadn't really eaten anything, and literally just been sitting at a bus stop for like 4 hours. No, I was not in a very good mood, but I didn't let that overshadow the fact that I had options and that things could get figured out and could get worked out. So, the ABCs of chill: triggering event, your belief about that event. That's where you want to pose the intervention. That's where you want to keep it positive. And then C is your emotional response to that event and what it is that you're going to do in that moment. So those are just a couple of travel mishaps that I've had recently and the ways that I handled them. They both turned out really well. And in both situations, I will say, I also constantly went over the positives in my head. So in Ho Chi Minh, I kept thinking like, the homeowners came home at the right time who spoke English. The landlord was responsive and showed up in 20 minutes. I was able to get into the house. At the end of the day, I was able to get back into the house. I had a strong supportive community around me, and I just kept replaying that over and over in my head. When I was stuck in Switzerland, I kept thinking about the fact that it wasn't that cold. It could have been colder. It could have been worse. It wasn't raining. The weather was nice. The fact that I was sitting at a bus stop was fine. It ended up being a very safe, small community town, which I didn't know. I had never been there, but it ended up being fine. There were 5 other people who were trying to get on the same bus as me. I wasn't the only one who missed it, and there were solutions in the end. And I actually got to walk around the town for about an hour while I waited for the train to show up. And it was a cute little town. It was really cool. So those are just some of the things that I do when I am in some of those situations to keep myself calm, just remind myself of those positives, and to make sure that my beliefs are matching those positives as well. So thanks guys. If you've had any major travel mishaps, let me know, and let me know how you responded to them and what you maybe could have done better, or if you feel like you handled it pretty well. So thanks again. Make sure you subscribe, and I will see you next week.